Well, there was at least one wrestling match again on this past week's AEW program. Of course, it's not going to come as any surprise to anybody who was involved in that match. The fine members of FTR. Did you see the package that somebody in AEW, somebody in the production crew did? I don't think Dax and Cash did this themselves. It was sit-down interviews with Dax and Cash at their homes in the mountainous region of Western North Carolina, where they talked about their friendship, their careers together as tag partners from the time they started training, blah, blah, blah. And this match between the two of them to qualify for the Owen Hart tournament and how much it meant to them, how much the Hart family meant to them. It was about 7 or 8 minutes, and it made you not only want to see this match, but also this could have been, it could have been on Wide World of Sports. It could have been on ESPN. It didn't have to just be about a contrived and or choreographed sport. It could have been legitimate. They treated it seriously. It meant something to them. And they played that package. I saw it on Twitter. We got on the television show that, good God, they could have taken this 7 or 8 minutes for this package instead of some of this other shit they foisted off on us and played that, and it meant something. But instead, because they have to keep their lead in from the Big Bang Theory, they put Cash and Dax on first with no package, no build, and right before they come out to make sure that the biggest star in the company is holding that Big Bang audience, here comes like Mussolini on play-by-play. Punk is from out of nowhere. I know he liked to watch the match and he added to the presentation of it, but now Punk's segment is seg 1, and they got to figure out a way to get Punk out there. Brian, where have we gone that a rerun of a 10 or 15-year-old situation comedy, not even in prime time, but prime time adjacent, 7:30 to 8 Eastern, does half again the ratings of a brand new first time ever show seen in prime time, 8 to 10? And can TBS be happy that this program that they're paying for is underperforming a lead-in from a syndicated show that they buy for less money than they're giving to AEW?
You don't know that.
Are you serious? What is syndication prices these days for a Big Bang Theory package? Or what do they buy? 3 runs or however many runs?
I got to think that's one of the biggest syndication packages out there today.
But aren't they paying AEW tens of millions of dollars a year?
How much do you think they pay to have the rights to a show like Seinfeld or The Office or Big Bang Theory?
Goddamn, one would think that something that's already in the can and is being sold in syndication might be a little bit cheaper than something that's being produced from scratch and airing live.
But, you know, it's kind of probably the same situation for the network, because just like the Big Bang Theory, they're not paying for AEW's production. Tony Khan is. So in a lot of cases, it's the same kind of show. Everyone's been talking about
But they're paying AEW, and everybody was talking about 6 figures or whatever the massive amount was. That was over the 4 years. It's still a lot of money. But
not 6 figures.
However many figures it was. 6 figures counting the cents. Anyway, they just go into this match with a great package already in the can that built it and made it important. They could have even edited that down a bit and made it a little shorter, but instead they jump right in because, as I said, they're underperforming their lead-in a primetime adjacency slot, which is not good. And they also lose. Are they still losing people as they go along? Are they still heavier on the front end with the ratings? Maybe you can check that while I'm talking about this match. But anyway, Punk did color. It did add some gravitas to the match. It's a qualifying match for the tournament, not even first round in the tournament. And it's Dax and Cash for the first time. And the announcers mentioned that they have teamed in just under 600 matches. And I'm like, shit, how long have they been a team? Because they were in NXT together in 2016, right? And they talked about teaming for almost 10 years. So Is that part of the problem now, is that these guys are only getting 80 or 100 matches a year and have even before the pandemic, and that's why it takes so long for people to get experience? If you'd have said to me, how many matches have FTR had together? I would have thought, well, 6, 7, 8 years, 1,000, 1,200, even with the modern schedule. Anyway.
That's one of the big problems with wrestling. You just don't get opportunities to work. I mean, there are people, not even trainees, but there are AEW stars, people on that show, when if you really stop and look at how many matches they've worked in this year on TV, it's almost non-existent. Someone just told me that about, who was it? Was it Santana and Ortiz? That they actually haven't had any matches on TV for like months? I got to actually check that because we've seen them on TV. That's a difference.
Yeah, they haven't had a tag match, straight tag match. They've been in peripheries and multi-mans and things, but
yeah.
Going back to the Midnight Express scrapbook, either incarnation of the Midnight Express hit 600 matches, counting TV tapings, in probably, 20 months? One would think. Anyway, from the time that these guys locked up, wrestling, flawless, whether running spots or mat wrestling or a little homage to Owen and Brett, or exchanging holds, everything's sharp, everything's crisp, everything's perfect, the timing's in the right place. Then they worked a little spot where they were being physical with each other anyway, but Dax was pushing Cash back in the corner and accidentally poked him in the eye with a finger, and temper flared. Cash got rough, shoved him. Then they started opening up with more spots. There was a nice superplex by Dax, and then he missed a diving headbutt. They go to the break. They come back. They're trading German suplexes. They hit that sweet double crossbody in the middle of the ring. Both of them went down. Then they stood up and traded real forearms that you could hear the smack of the meat in the flesh and not the little flippy things to the side of the neck from guys that don't know how to throw punches. They went through a series of roll-ups. They were trading the roll-ups. Then Dax hit that slingshot sit-out powerbomb, got a nice 2 count. And they're in Philadelphia, which Punk pointed out. Philly, they love the Midnight Express and they love FTR. Thank you, Punk, for the shout-out. But that's true. Philadelphia was the original town for smart fans to become prominent, and they liked the guys that could go. It wasn't just about garbage wrestling. It wasn't just about ECW and barbed wire or street fights or whatever. The original smart fans in Philly recognized the talented guys, and whoever they were, babyface or heels, and they liked them. And so you don't have to just feed the Philadelphia crowd garbage wrestling. They're more than that, if they were allowed to be. But everybody thinks when they go to Philadelphia, they have to pull out barbed wire like they did later on in the program for absolutely no good fucking reason. And I just turned around to see that it's a FedEx truck in my driveway. So I'll not get the gun and go down there. Anyway, Cash hit a great pile driver and got a 2 count. And I just hate a pile driver as a false finish, especially when they looked good. And the only other thing that I criticize about the match is both went to the deal where they go to the top rope and they're up there for too long. It's not realistic, but that was the only flaw. And then they did a nice back suplex, but Dax landed on top for a 2 count, little false finish. Boom, boom, boom. They took a bump through the ropes. Cash sold his knee big, and they beat the 10 count. And the people in Philly, again, they had chanted Fight Forever, which is somewhat ignorant and not what either competitor should want to do. But they chanted FTR. They were with the false finishes. And then as Cash had sold his knee from that fall on the outside, when they got back in, Dax goes for the sharpshooter and hesitates just for a minute because he doesn't want to hurt his partner's leg, which makes sense. Instead of this the conflicted shit. Should I bash this guy with a baseball bat even though he set my mother and her cat on fire last week? That's bullshit, but you might not want to hurt your friend. And then Cash took the opportunity to small package him, but Dax rolls it through and gets a 1-2-3. And it was a nice, simple, easy finish that could have capitalized on a mistake that the other guy made. Nobody is really a clear winner or loser in this, where one guy is clearly better, so they're still comparable as tag team partners. And when they shook hands and hugged afterwards, the sportsmanship was called for and made sense because they are partners and they had wrestled pretty much of a clean match where nobody was trying to injure a guy who's their partner and their livelihood depends on the other guy just because they're booked in a match. So again, now FTR has had the best match we ever saw in NXT, or the best tag match at least, because Walter and Ilya Dragunov was in NXT also. They had the best match WrestleMania weekend on the Ring of Honor event with the Briscoes. They've had the best tag match we've ever seen in AEW a couple of times. And now they have a, flawless singles match with each other. Was this singles match of the caliber of, Punk and MJF or Danielson's, great main events? Possibly not. It wasn't built that way, and it wasn't supposed to be that way. But it was flawless as a wrestling match. So maybe Tony ought to have these guys booking and popping the corn. They can do everything else. What'd you think?
I thought it was really good. I couldn't get too much into it just because there was no good reason for these guys to be wrestling this match. I know they wanted to, and it's part of the tournament. There's no good reason this match should have happened. And quite frankly, the Philly crowd, to me, was the story, because I think FTR having an FTR tag team match in Philly would have been amazing in front of that room.
It would have. They would have, if they could have. My God, can you imagine what the Philly crowd would have done with the FTR and the Briscoes?
Imagine what the Philly crowd would have done with FTR against anyone. It would have been a hot crowd for them, the same way the Midnight Express comparison was true. I remember Halloween Havoc being there when Michael Hayes and Arn and Bobby Eaton came out and the place went crazy and the rest of the show sucked. But that opening match was what they wanted. It was that kind of energy, and FTR would have had it, and they would have gotten over real big there as a tag team. They are over real big as a tag team. So, but it was a really good match. I thought Punk was excellent on commentary. He always is. The pre-match video, I think that's one of the problems with AEW. They do these amazing packages leading up usually to pay-per-views.
And you don't see them.
I know they air them like Friday after Rampage, but I think they're more effective for selling the pay-per-views. I think they're more effective for the storylines. And even if you wanted to mix them into the show with live matches from an arena, do it. Even the Bucks, who I'm not a fan of, whenever I've seen the Bucks featured in one of those package videos, it makes a little more sense why they behave the way they do. They're not acting completely goofy because of the nature of what kind of interview it is.
Right.
And everything else. I think
they can't act like themselves in that setting.
I saw it just like you did. I saw it on Twitter. And my first question was, why? Why is this on Twitter? I see some of the things that get on TV and get past the commercial break on TV. If you can't put a 3 or 4 minute video that does something like this on TV, what are you doing?
Well, they think everybody lives their life on the internet just because their base audience that they refuse to grow lives their life on the internet. And by the way, the reason why that the Bucks act the way they do has been explained previously. It's because of the lack of environmental regulations on nuclear waste in Southern California during the period of time of the decade that they were born. That's been established.
That was in the package to build up their match with Omega and Page, I believe.
Yes, that's the nuclear waste segment that they did about Cucamonga is swimming in green slime.
Are they lizard people?
They speak with forked tongues, so they very well be. It's a check. Somebody check underneath one of their wings and see if they're scaly. But then after that match, obviously, Punk is still out there, so he took the opportunity to go down to ringside, and I liked this promo because he walked down to the ring and walked around the ring talking to sort of the entire crowd personally, but instead of doing it from the ring, he did it from around the ring, kept his train of thought, and delivered the message, and it was It was different. And obviously, they've announced Punk versus Page on May 29th on their next pay-per-view, which, if they wanted a world title match that would potentially sell pay-per-views, I guess this is the one that they should have, because Page against anybody else ain't going to do it. But now, how do they get out of this? If Punk puts Page over, it may hurt him.
Unless he's screwed. Unless he's screwed over.
Well, but then do they switch Page heel?
I'm not saying by Page. I mean, there's plenty of people there that Punk has not had any interaction with. What if, just throw a name out there, what if Danielson decided to go out there and do something? I'm not saying it's going to be him, but that's one way to get so that Punk could lose and it wouldn't kill him.
Anything that Danielson does away from the Blackpool Combat Club, I would be receptive to. But I think, are they still trying to get Page over, and they think, well, if Punk puts him over, and Punk will be a good soldier about it. But can anybody get Adam Page over at this point? Except to the base audience that's already there and accepts anything. Does anybody with a discerning eye, or anybody that's just not, entranced by AEW, think that Adam Page is a world champion the way that they've got him there, or what he's been doing since he got there? Or are they just going to waste a Punk loss that could mean something for somebody else, like it did for MJF, on a lost cause project? We'll find out. But Punk's promo was good, because he said when he came back, he wondered, can I still do this? And now he can honestly say he can. And he's warmed up and he's ready to give 100%. Without the fans, there would be no Punk. So that's why he's going to wrestle the fucking popular babyface world champion that needs all the help he can get.
Great promo. I like the idea that, because he had to get to the ring, they didn't waste any of the time. He got right on the mic and started talking as he went around the ring, created an interesting look. Also didn't kill any time or waste any time. And Punk's just a fantastic talker. And right here at the top of the show, we had a match that the fans were super into, with wrestlers that they're into. And then Punk, who's the most over guy in every single show they do, every single week. It was a good way to start the show. But Jim, before we wrap things up, I have a little bit of news here.
Yes.
What you asked about earlier.
Yes. Well, are we wrapping up already? Is this the end of the show? I saw more show.
Well, wrapping up the CM Punk segment.
Oh, I see.
Here's an article from September 17th, 2019.
My birthday.
Your birthday, The Hollywood Reporter. On your birthday, The Big Bang Theory sets staggering multi-billion-dollar HBO Max streaming deal. So again, this is HBO Max, but listen to this and then we can move on. In what is easily a record-setting 5-year deal, HBO Max has secured the exclusive domestic streaming rights to The Big Bang Theory. As part of the pact with Warner Brothers Television, the multi-camera comedy, created by Chuck Lorre and Bill Prady, has also extended its syndication deal with TBS and will air on the Warner Media-owned basic cable network through 2028. There's 12 seasons, and if I go a little further down...
Jesus, a 9-year deal at that time.
Sources estimate that the deal, including both the streaming end and syndication extension, is worth billions of dollars.
Jesus Christ!
By comparison, HBO Max paid $425 million over 5 years, which is $85 million per year, to move the mega hit Friends from Netflix onto its own platform. So we don't have exact numbers, but north of $425 million.
Have you ever tried to watch The Big Bang Theory?
It's not good. It's not good at all.
And there are the most unsympathetic main characters because everybody's a fucking nerd or a fucking mental case. It ain't Seinfeld. It ain't Always Sunny. And the only girl on the show ain't fucking anybody.
What does that have to do with why the show's good or not?
Well, it just, Jesus Christ. So anyway, The Big Bang Theory, nobody gets banged.
Seriously, I thought, when that show first started, I didn't follow Chuck Lorre. I wasn't a 2.5 Men fan or anything. So I didn't know what his stuff was. You're like, okay, maybe this is down my alley, funny geeks. Maybe there'll be some, 80s nerd humor, whatever it is. But no, that show's irredeemably bad.
It ain't no always sunny. That's for sure. Speaking of what also wasn't very sunny, the next match on AEW, remember we started off with a great wrestling match and the biggest star of the company doing a promo. Now here comes the Blackpool Combat Club, Moxley, Danielson, and Yuta, but we have solved the mystery. I just said on the drive-thru, where have they gone? Comarato, Solo, Agogo, they're back.
Well, not Agogo.
Agogo was in the corner.
Oh, I didn't even notice him.
Well, nobody else did either, but somebody mentioned him. QT Marshall and Comarato and Solo with the Go-Go in a six-man tag with the Blackpool Combat Club, and immediately the baby faces jump-started again, immediate six-way, same shit as always, then they settle down and try to have a match. And honestly and truthfully, I'm about fed up. Bryan Danielson was the best heel in professional wrestling. He was brilliant. Every week he was unmissable. Now they've stuck him in this thing with fucking Moxley the plumber and Yuta the useless and working with job guys and not being able to do his shit, but having to do this violent shit. And he never talks, and he's only in the ring part of the time. And trying to zip through these matches just for when Bryan gets in and out is too hard. So I wrote, fuck, he could be the AEW World Heavyweight Champion right now and the most entertaining heel in the business, but he's buried in six-man tag matches, and I didn't watch the rest of it. What did I miss?
It was probably the most fun of their matches so far, but that's what you look for out of a fight club or a combat club is fun. The fans were really into it. The fans were into Yuta. It's his hometown. Everyone got their individual entrance once again, eating up a lot of TV time. Because the fans were into it, I kind of enjoyed it. But I'm like you, even with enjoying it and even with thinking Yuta's all right, and I'm not a Moxley fan, you can't tell me this promotion would not be better off today if they still had the Danielson they had months ago, cutting promos, being a heel, interacting with the audience, and then having great matches. Instead, now
them letting Moxley out of the puzzle factory was the worst thing that happened to Bryan Danielson. When he was there all by himself, he was stealing the show. And now if he would, it would still be petty theft. Christian is apparently still managing Jungle Boy and Dino Douche. Did you see this? And he's trying to pump Jungle Boy up. I thought they were starting to turn him on Jungle Boy because he was, yeah, you're a loser.
I think that's where they're going. Why
do they want to turn Christian heel?
Because he's doing such great work as a babyface? Do you think this is an effective way to use him? Any kind of heel turn would be more effective than this.
He was supposed to outwork everybody, and he hadn't worked since. He's had one match in the last year, and he talks for these two numbnuts because Jungle Boy don't want to talk, and Dino Douche sounds and looks like an idiot. And then Starks and Hobbs walk in and issue a challenge. Maybe they'll be the next tag team champions. We can only hope.
Starks is great on the mic.
Starks is great. Hobbs is his physical backup, and they could easily be a tag team. And then FTR could work with them and teach them something. And Starks and they could work with Santana and Ortiz. I think they ought to just put Jungle Boy and the Dinosaur and the Hardley Boys over in the corner somewhere with a trampoline, let them work some shit out, and let the men have the tag team matches. But speaking of men, go ahead.
You don't have to do that. Just put them in Ring of Honor for a year. And then bring them back when they're fresh. Whatever Ring of Honor is.
I was about to say, what is Ring of Honor now? In Tony's mind.
It's a few belts on TV. It's actually become just like WCW after the WWE bought them.
More belts. That's what we need. Lance Archer versus Wardlow. I wanted to pick this apart, and there are a few things, but Wardlow, remember with the Butcher, right? It sucked. The Butcher is not a threat to anybody. He's never had a single match, never won a single match. We haven't seen him on television. He's just a big schlub that Wardlow shouldn't have been selling for. With Archer, at least we've got a bigger, more mobile guy that's been used and been featured. He still never wins anything, but he beats up a bunch of smaller people. But this worked better for Wardlow, I think, than the Butcher. Remember, I was talking about right before you have the big match with Wardlow or whatever, you want to give him somebody that can test him or try him or put him in some jeopardy that he can overcome, blah, blah, blah. So let's take the Butcher out of the equation last week. That sucked. This is the one, if you're going to do one, because Archer, as I said, is big enough and he's been used well enough, but also he's got some experience, and Wardlow was able to do some of his shit here we haven't seen Wardlow do. That flying Hurricane Rana, for a guy that size, he shouldn't do it all the time or it'll look normal, but cranking it out every once in a while, that popped everybody. MJF being with Spears in the skybox, celebrating what they think is going to happen is a good touch because that way we can see their facials. And Wardlow was all over Archer and actually showed that he could punch. They did a decent 1-2 exchange. Archer did that goddamn rope walk and moonsault that is the phoniest thing that he does in every match, and he won't quit doing it, and it buries the opponent that it works on. But otherwise than that, this wasn't, what Archer hit a choke slam, got a 2 count. There was no pop on the kick out because people have you noticed, are not buying Wardlow selling. They're buying Wardlow getting fucked around by the security or the rulings. They get into that, and they're buying Wardlow running roughshod over everybody. They do not want to see him sell, and I don't blame them. That's part of it. When did they want to see Goldberg sell in 1999? How often?
Well, they didn't. And actually, that's my only big complaint about the match. And I'm sorry that, it's Archer in there, but Wardlow should have won this again in 2 minutes. And he came out there. He did a quick flurry that looked really impressive. You mentioned the Hurricane Rana, the way he was moving. That match would have ended right there. To me, it's perfection. You're still building him. Spears and MJF are still scared. But he had another back and forth match. It was a Butcher last week. Couldn't finish him off. The guy fell down on a powerbomb.
Yeah.
And then this week it's Archer. I just think it would have been a lot more effective. May not have been as cool. You may not have been able to watch him walk around the ropes or anything. But for what you're actually trying to do, what your objectives are, Wardlow should have gotten in that ring against Archer, who's a big badass, and just killed him. And he was set up for that, and then it became a back and forth match.
That's why I say take the Butcher out, and he could have done a little back and forth this week with this guy. I could have stood that, but the back and forth last week with the Butcher, and then a lot of back and forth here. But they saw that the people don't want to see Wardlow sell, because every time that was happening, they would get out of it. But then Archer tried to give him another blackout or whatever his move is, and Wardlow foiled that and hit a senton and then got back in control, and the fans came back. Power bomb, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3. And they were back at the end. So they won't lose them if they keep Wardlow selling short, brief, intermittently, and unusual. But they don't want to see him selling like Ricky Morton. Should we even talk about the no good Jericho appreciators?
Oof, this segment.
I can't even. I don't know. I was reading the newspaper. I was combing my pubic hair. The Jericho appreciators face to face with Kingston, Santana, and Ortiz. It's always the same. And Jericho's traded a group of people who, in their own individual ways, had talent and didn't need to be in a group with him to another group that really has no discernible star quality talent and is just there to be his flunkies, and they're less interesting than the other guys were. And here it is. What'd you think? Did I miss anything?
Yeah, you missed a lot. I don't know why you skipped this. Of all the things, I don't know why you skipped this. Eddie Kingston was phenomenal on the mic.
But I saw Jericho and his guys out there first. And I don't want to see the overacting quasi macho man promos from Fat Faced 2.0, Daddy Mac Daddy. And I don't want to see Daniel Garcia wandering around saying he's a sports entertainer. You enjoyed this?
No, I didn't enjoy it, but of all the things for you to skip, I can't believe you skipped this. You know, it was the epitome of everything that's wrong with Jericho stuff. Eddie Kingston comes out there and does a fantastic promo, and Jericho's still just hamming it up and doing his little shtick right now. And to me, it's getting lamer and lamer. Like, with everything with Jericho, the first week or two, you're like, okay, it's interesting. Let's see where he goes. And then you get to this point where you're like, oh, this is terrible. And like everything else with Jericho, Kingston and them get a few words in, and then later in the night, they all get their ass kicked. That's every Jericho angle. Okay, we'll do something, and then you get your comeback, and that same episode, we kick the shit out of you. That's exactly what they did with MJF, that entire feud. And that's what they're doing now.
Well, I'm just telling you.
I wish they would have been booking Eddie Kingston smarter instead of just saying, oh, Jericho wants to latch onto him, let's do this. They even tried to play that up a little bit in the promos early on with this. That's what happened.
Yeah, remember Eddie said, you ain't gonna, how did he phrase it? You're not gonna sap all of my heat or latch onto me and leave me laying by the side of the road or whatever, and that's
exactly what happened.
But now do you think that Jericho has noticed that Kingston has already cooled off so bad because they didn't capitalize on his Players Tribune article and all the goodwill he had? So now by the time he's got this program going with the guy he thought was going to be the next hot thing, they've already botched the next hot thing's booking, cooled him off. Might not last long. Next up, what did we talk about just a little while ago? A Philadelphia street fight. The reason for this is because they're in Philadelphia and they want to have a street fight. Serena Deeb against Hikaru Shida. And guess how the match started? A jump start with a kendo stick. I've never seen that before. If I don't watch the men's garbage matches, I'm not going to watch the women's garbage matches. There is no fucking reason to book a girls' street fight match, especially on free television, especially when Serena can work. The only girl they've got that can touch her in the ring working a match would be Thunder Rosa, and they've got her in garbage matches too. So was this as bad as normal, or did they somehow pull something out of their hat?
I didn't watch this. I don't give a shit.
Okay, very good. So then, MJF, real quick, he gets a word in the back with the interviewer, Lindsay, who corrects him as it's Lexi. And then he runs her off. It was great. And calls a guy on the phone and offers him 6 figures. So now we're playing with Vern Gagne money. 6 figures to come and take out Wardlow. And apparently he's teased because he said the guy is so tall or whatever, and you can't teach that. It's teasing that it's going to be that big Cass goofball. What do they call him now? W. Morrissey.
Well, I think they use his real name. So that's what.
Well, but he did W. Morrissey. What? How the fuck is? Again, I know these guys are picking their own names these days, which makes it all the more stupid. Why would you pick? If you're a 7-foot pro wrestler, why would you pick a name that sounds like you're a member of the Velvet Underground in the 60s? What is W. Morrissey?
First of all, I'm so impressed as a Velvet Underground fan. I'm trying to figure out how your mind ended up there. Now, Paul Morrissey was kind of in their circle. Plus, there was Sterling Morrison. I'm so impressed with you right now. I can't justify his name other than I'm happy you mentioned the Velvet Underground.
Yeah. So they know him by his catchphrase that he used to use in a company that he used to work for. So now they're going to bring him in to do a job for Wardlow, I guess, or whatever. All right. And then there's a blackout. Never saw that coming. And then there's a spotlight, and laying in the spotlight, all stretched out on the floor, having been roughed up and treated in an ill fashion, is old Fago del Sol, another one of their 5-foot-tall, 120-pound masked goofballs. And he's just laying there. And suddenly into the spotlight stepped the House of Black. There's Malachi Black. There's Brody King. There's what's the other fella's name? Buddy. They're the House of Black. They're all together. And they prepare to unmask old Fago del Sol and the fucking, like anybody wants to see what this guy looks like or cares or ever wants to see him on their television again. It's not like they've got like a fucking newborn baby. They're trying to rip the lollipop out of its mouth. But suddenly, in the ring, under red light, as opposed to their blue light, is our friend Alex. Old Alex Abrahantis, who used to be an entertaining manager and has lately become a local cable access version of the fucking Crypt Keeper. And he's got the shovel in front of his face, but he's speaking very clearly, even though he's got a shovel that he's holding with both hands in front of his face. Maybe he's got a wireless mic. And he's telling the House of Black not to unmask the luchador, who's about as fucking Mexican and luchador as I am, because you can't do that to a lucha star to take his mask. So when he warns them not to, did you notice the choreographed start to the walk to the ring where they waited till the camera got back on them, and then it was like a bad cut in a movie where they suddenly start walking all at the same time because it was their cue, where they go to the ring and surround Alex. So, folks, if you're keeping track, it's going to get more confusing. We had the Black fellows in the walk into the spotlight that Fago del Sol was in laying there hurt. Then we've got Alex in the ring with a shovel over his face in the red light. So all the House of Black do a choreographed walk into the ring and surround Alex, but suddenly music plays, and here comes Penthouse out on the stage. The House of Black turn their backs on Alex to look at Penthouse. That's where Jim Ross utters the immortal line, "I'd like to understand the plan here a little better." We all would, Jim. We all would. Now Pac comes out to join Penthouse on the stage, staring at the House of Black. But then out comes Alex beside them. So who's in the ring? The House of Black do not bother to turn around and look who's behind them in the ring when they see Alex in front of them on the stage, because they know that the guy that was supposed to be Alex in the ring has to take off his Alex outfit. He's got to drop the shovel, take off the hood, take off the bodysuit, and reveal that it's Penthouse's brother Felix. Now, when he's completely undressed, that's when they turn, and Felix swings that shovel at him, and some way or another misses all three of them with a 6-foot shovel. He can't hit the broadside of a barn, can't hit the ground with his hat. And then they have an awkward fight with Buddy and Felix over who gets the shovel. And the heels all powder to the floor and stand there immobile in the same position together so that they can watch all three of the baby faces run to the opposite side of the ring and then run toward them and jump over the top rope and dive out on top of them. And that's the way this journey through hysteria ended. It was absolutely appallingly rotten. Did you understand what was going on in any of this?
I did not like this at all. I think the House of Black are terrible. Every segment they're in is just trash. And Malachi Black came in. He was a pretty hot act. They had the whole spy versus spy thing going to him in black and Cody in white. Fans got behind Malachi. He's doing cool karate moves. Then he's got some mist. Now he's got some big boring friends. They're still doing the spooky hocus pocus shit where the lights go out and they're all dressed in their Halloween outfits and they come to the ring to confront the other Halloween outfit wrestlers. This is terrible.
And don't forget, his aim was inerringly inaccurate with that mist.
Oh, he never got anyone in the face. Got the top of the head. Sometimes he got like a cheek, but he never got anything right. But they're terrible. I mean, the House of Black, they've made him boring, and they've also just made it so silly that I don't want to see it. In the middle of this show, a show that had FTR battling each other, like a match that existed in the real world, and Punk talking about wanting a title match, a match that exists or an angle that exists in the real world, the Wardlow thing, the Blackpool Fight Club, Eddie Kingston's issues with Jericho's fakeness, and then we get the hocus pocus shit. This stuff is really bad. And I know they have some fans who like it. No, this is bad and doesn't belong on wrestling. I think Malachi Black and his boring friends should go to fucking Hollywood and find some mark to finance the horror movies they want to make and keep this off wrestling TV.
Rob Zombie. He remade every other horror movie and fucked it up. He might as well do that.
But I don't know if he's a money mark for horror movies. There's a difference.
Well, and I'll tell you again, maybe this is why they're constantly in the dark, because they know that it sucks and they don't want people to get a good close look at it. So that's why they're always in the dark.
I hadn't thought about that.
Let's cover that shit up. You're trying to sell this substandard product. Control the lighting, subdued lighting. Don't let anybody get a good close look at it. They had an interview segment with Swerve and Darby, because they're fighting each other on Friday. I can't remember now. Swerve's supposed to be a babyface?
Yes, because he was aligned with Keith Lee.
Okay, so now they're fighting each other for no reason. And I noted that I heard Darby speak. I said, Darby shouldn't speak when he's on somas. And then, wait a minute, he's straight edge and doesn't take drugs. So Darby Allin shouldn't speak while boring.
And they have Sting there to be with Darby, and you want to talk about AEW wrestlers, they've cooled down. Explain to me the way Darby's been used the last 6 months or so. Doesn't make any sense. He was so over. Him and Sting always get a big reaction. There are things you could do with him because he's a smaller guy, but he lays his stuff in, and he, as silly as, not silly, but as wacky as his character may seem, it seems like it's the real fucking guy.
Yeah, he really is a lunatic.
And they really haven't done anything. He's been stuck in the thing with Andrade and the Hardy family, and then the Hardys themselves. Now they're not even on TV after
Well, see, think about this, though. Guys are more over when they come to AEW than they are after they've been there a while. They're always more popular. They get better responses from the crowd. It's new, it's exciting, it's different. The people want to see them, and then they see how they continue to be booked, and then they get less popular, less over, more routine, commonplace, less exciting because of the matchmaking instead of, that's normally it works the other way, but when you go to AEW with that smart crowd, you're as popular as you're ever going to be. If you've ever been heard of before. If you've never been heard of before, you got no place to go but up. Speaking of no place to go but down, a 10-man tag team match followed this stuff we've been talking about. Bobby Fish, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, and the Hardley Boys against Brian Pillman Jr., Griff Garrison, Brock Anderson, Dante Martin, and old Shoddy Lee Johnson. Pillman had a chance. That was long ago and oh so far away. Janie was lovely. She was the queen of my nights. There in the darkness with the radio playing low. But he don't have a chance now because he's been around too long. And I don't know what, poor Dante, they're just going to stick him in the middle of all this since his teams broke up again, and they're not going to send him away somewhere to let him get older and grow up and learn to work and use that incredible athletic ability. They're going to keep throwing him out here and learning him some bad habits until he hurts something and he's gone. So they had a 10-man tag team match here for the finish. The corpse referee, old Knox, stood there and watched while 4 of the heels grabbed Lee Johnson and all did like the ring around the maypole Rosie and gave him the shitty knee lift, and then Adam Cole hit his knee 1, 2, 3 and pinned him. So Flat buried the referee. There was no reason for everybody to beat up one job guy and make it illegal and bury your referee and make the whole thing. That's what they do because they don't know any different. Did I miss any incredible revelations on anybody's talent in this 10-man tag team match?
I didn't watch it terribly closely because
why?
You know what? It's Adam Cole at this point. It's not the Bucks. Certainly not Kyle O'Reilly. Fish, I could take or leave. But Adam Cole, I was a fan of him in NXT, and now I don't want to see any of his shit anymore. And you knew what the result of this match would be.
Yeah.
Forgive me if you mentioned it. Did you mention Arn Anderson just standing there doing nothing at ringside?
Oh, I forgot Arn Anderson standing there at ringside doing nothing because that's what he's been doing since he's been there because they like the idea of having a legend. They just don't have anything for him to fucking do. At least he was holding the Waffle House menu with Cody and fantasizing about some scattered, smothered, covered, diced, and chunked. How do you like your Waffle House potatoes?
I have not been to the Waffle House or a Waffle House in a very long time, and I don't remember having their potatoes.
You've never had the Waffle House hash browns?
I've insisted on Waffle House cooking me French toast, even though it's not on the menu.
Oh, good God. Waffle House hash browns, scattered, smothered, and covered, crispy but not burnt. Otherwise, you are a heathen, sir.
Scattered, smothered. If it's covered with cheese, I wouldn't want it, but whatever else they got.
Well, they're scattered on the grill. They're actually smothered with cheese and then covered with onions.
Well, call me a heathen.
It can also be diced with ham and chunked with tomato and the whole 9 yards. In the parking garage, there was the Japs, the Jericho Appreciators. And we haven't seen enough of them because now they have, in the garage that we find out they've already beaten up Santana and Ortiz, and then they're holding Kingston, and Jericho's fumbling with something, and he did throw the fireball. He tried to throw it at Eddie Kingston and set the top of his head on fire. He missed his face, and it landed on the top of his head. Chris, your wad was a little tight. That's what the problem was. If you want the fireball to not only spread out wide, but also float upward, then don't wad your paper so tight. You wadded it too tight, and when you lit it, you just flew it, and it went straight across and sat on his head and then fucking disappeared. But they set Eddie Kingston on fire now. Does that count on the same show as a stipulation or gimmick match on the same show as, let's see, a girls' Philadelphia street fight, a ladder match, a 10-man tag, now the mugging of the House of Black, whatever happened there, and...
Is there anyone in that company with the balls to say to Chris Jericho, we're not doing your stupid shit today?
Apparently not.
I mean, it's not Tony Khan.
Somebody would.
Does anyone who works with Chris Jericho have the balls to say we're not doing whatever your bad ideas are? Use them next time with someone else. We're not doing them.
It's good ideas, bad ideas. It's every idea. He has every idea to do everything that's ever been done. All of them have the idea to do everything that's ever been done, whether it's called for or not, whether it means anything or not, whether it applies to the situation or not.
This Eddie Kingston feud has been such a waste of all of Eddie Kingston's momentum, been a waste of Santana and Ortiz. I like Garcia a little more than you. Now I don't want to see him anymore. Hey,
a lot of people now, they're talking on Twitter and they're making comments on YouTube. You know what? This guy, Daniel Garcia, has yet to win one match on television, but yet he's on every show every week working with main event guys, and we can't get away from him. We can't find fucking Hobbs with a magnifying glass. We can't get away from Daniel Garcia.
I'm telling you, every single time that a babyface team has ever risen up against Jericho and his crew. And again, it was even a heel team. They get one over on him, either with an attack, which Jericho and his crew immediately turned into them winning the attack, or a promo, and Eddie killed Jericho in the ring. Eddie was so real, and Jericho got faker and faker, and it was just so bad.
But you know what? It hurts Kingston.
Because
every time that he's real and every time he tells somebody something's going to happen and it don't happen and he don't do it and nothing, and he just gets his mouth pissed in again.
I'm so mad you didn't watch this promo. In the promo, Jericho, who again, he's so hokey right now, tells Kingston, we're going to put a hit on you. Kingston, to his credit, reacts the way someone from where we're from, this area, would react if something like that said, if you know people who don't play around with that kind of shit.
What Kingston said was, if you intend to say that to somebody where I'm from, then we intend to put somebody in the ground. Are you ready to do that? But Eddie's not going to be allowed to even put this guy to the ground, much less in the ground.
And then Jericho got more and more silly. And again, it ends with Kingston and his guys looking all right. By the end of the night, once again, Kingston got beat down. Once again. I mean, it's just...
And set on fire.
Are they going to burn his eyebrows off? When he comes back, his eyebrows gone? We'll find out.
No, because he didn't hit him in the face with the fireball. And finally, we come to the main event of the evening. And a lot of people have said, oh, Cornette, what do you think about that? Well, you can imagine what I thought about this. But again, this is just ridiculous. A ladder match for the TNT TV title, this long-running program settled in a ladder match between Sammy Guevara and Scorpio Sky. They've had one other match. And now last week it was made a ladder match, as we saw. And this is for the TV title. Sammy just won this thing, right?
I was going to say they've had more than one match. Yeah, because the title's gone back and forth a few times.
No, I thought they had the match where Sammy just won it. They have two matches?
Well, Sammy won it from Cody, Scorpio won it from Sammy, then Sammy won it back from Scorpio, so there's match 2, and now...
There's 2 matches.
This is match 3.
Well, regardless, ladder match, and guess how this thing started? You're never going to guess, Brian, in a million years how they started this match.
Collar and elbow tie-up?
Jump start on the floor. And Sammy's got his little girl bitch face with him. Good old Ty Conti. God, the facials that she's got is just amazingly heat-getting.
And just them embracing it, too. Them making out on the stage and everything.
Yes, and the anteater tongues and the whole thing. The people hate them. But now here's the thing. There's Dan Lambert in Scorpio Sky's corner and all the stuff that Sky and Paige and Lambert have been doing for months to be heels. And suddenly that's eradicated in the twinkling of an eye because anything is preferable to these 2 fucking juvenile delinquent street urchins that the people have come to despise. So they fought on the floor endlessly. And who is the baby face that I'm supposed to cheer for here? Who am I supposed to be rooting for in this match? There is none. So it's just watching. At first, they didn't have any ladders in the ring. That's why they didn't get in the ring. They didn't use the ring. They used the floor. Then finally, Scorpio runs and gets the ladder off the stage and whacks Sammy with it and puts it in the ring. And then Sammy German suplexes Scorpio Sky on the ramp and lays there and makes snow angels. He gets heat even with me. But finally, they get in the ring. And then they start fighting on the ladder. And they do one spot where Sammy climbs the ladder. The ladder is in obviously the wrong place. There's no way he can climb the ladder and snatch the belt. The ladder is too far over. It's not underneath the belt. But he's climbing. He sees where he is, but he's climbing it there because it's to set up the next spot. And then he turns and sees that he can't reach the belt. And Sky is down at his feet at the bottom of the ladder, so he does the finger twirl like I'm crazy. And he turns his back and then just leaps and does a turning, flipping cannonball off the top of the ladder from 10 feet up and drops right past Scorpio Sky, lands at a heap at his feet, and Scorpio Sky takes a bump anyway. Besides the fact that he nearly killed himself and it's his fault, so, goddamn, can't grieve forever, Sammy. If you want to break your own neck, I'm not going to cry about it. But at the same time, there was no move that was going to be made. There's no way to catch somebody coming like that. From facing away from Sky, he does a turnaround and a flip and a twist, and he's coming from 10 feet in the air. So what part of that did Scorpio Sky or anybody else want to get under? To have their face bashed in with an elbow or a knee or a foot or whatever. So dipshit lands right next to him, and then Sky's got to just fall over anyway.
The pointing to the head, I'm crazy hand signals become my favorite part of the Sammy Guevara repertoire. Because even this time, he's on top of the ladder and he looks down, and he knows this is stupid.
Yes.
And it wasn't even like an enthusiastic, I'm loco, I'm crazy. We've seen that before. This was kind of like, I guess I better show them. Yeah, I'm doing this because I'm crazy. And then he did it.
But it wasn't a move.
It was nothing. It was an injury.
Nothing. It was
an injury.
That's an injury that didn't happen, luckily for him, and unfortunately for everybody else.
Apparently he did get hurt. I think that was the move he got hurt on.
Well, good for him. Maybe he won't do it anymore since it didn't accomplish anything and there was nobody there for him to even land on if he had of. So then they go to the break. When they come back, there's 2 ladders in the ring, a short one and a tall one, or shorter one and a tall one. And Sammy, while Sky is climbing, Sammy jumps off the top rope to the top of the short ladder and off of that toward Scorpio Sky, who catches him with a cutter. And down they go. But Scorpio Sky landing that fairly perfectly. Now Sammy's out. So Scorpio doesn't just climb the ladder and get the belt and win the match. He gets out of the ring while Sammy's laying there selling and pulls out from underneath the ring a ladder wrapped in barbed wire and slides it into the ring.
Where do you buy that?
Apparently in Philadelphia at the Home Depot. They have the extra special barbed wire ladders. What is the, again, just because they're in Philadelphia, they want to get the people to chant ECW, so they want to get the people to chant the name of another wrestling promotion, and they want this 90s stupid shit that was way past played out 15 years ago to still continue. All these fucking gum-bumping street urchins out there think I'm behind the times, when the shit that I advocate for is timeless. Everybody that thinks they're with the times is still hooting and hollering over this played out, boring, blasé 90s ECW grunge barbed wire bullshit that was over for about fucking 2 weeks to me and about 2 years to everybody else, and then it became stupid and repetitious. So here comes the barbed wire ladder. And here is the baby face that I'm supposed to cheer for against Sammy, the delinquent. He had a chance to win the match, climb the ladder, and get the belt, but he didn't do that so he could get out and pull out a barbed wire ladder and put it in the ring, and the first thing that happens is Sammy bumps him into it. So talk about making your nominal baby face as big of an idiot as possible. There you go. But then Ty Conti gets in the ring and kicks Dan Lambert in the balls, and the place blew up. Just exploded. They like a good ball kick. Then here comes Paige Van Zandt, and she jumps in the ring, and she has a hockey fight with Ty Conti.
We haven't seen her in weeks, have we?
Well, no, but there she was. She just trying to find a place to park the past few weeks. And then Sammy has a hockey fight with Scorpio Sky after they've taken all these bumps. Suddenly they're up fresh and there's 2 sets of hockey fights. And then both sets of baby faces, Paige Van Zandt and Scorpio Sky, and I use the term baby faces very liberally because they're heels too, they turn around and celebrate kicking the shit out of the other heels. And both Sammy and Ty Conti just jump up and super kick each one of them once, and they sell forever. And now Sammy and Ty go out and get the wire ladder that after they bumped on it before, somebody pulled it out of the ring onto the floor. They get it and put it back in. There is nobody trying to win this match. It is completely fallen apart. There is no drama. There's no logic. Now the amateurs have taken over with Lambert and the girls, and it's just a mess. And JR at that point says, wow, what a compelling ladder match. And Tony's response is, watch the girl on the left. So this whole thing is degenerated into complete shit, just raw sewage. Make your eyes water. Now each guy gets on one side of the big tall ladder and starts climbing each side of the ladder with the other guy's girl on his back. And they get to the top and realize the girls are punching each other, and then the girls drop off. And they just roll out of the ring. And Sammy gives Scorpio Sky the finger, and Sky starts biting it. And he knocks Scorpio Sky down to the mat. But Sky tips Sammy, ladder and all, off onto the barbed wire, and he lands back first. Now we determine that it's not even real barbed wire. Because if Sammy Guevara landed bare back first from off the top of a ladder onto that barbed wire, and he wasn't ripped from asshole to appetite, it's phony barbed wire. But then taking the bump into the barbed wire, Sammy jumps back up on the ladder, and Sky knocks him off again, and then he just gets the belt and wins the thing back. So now they've changed it again, and Scorpio Sky is the TV champion, and Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon's reputations are safe. As a ladder match, this was certainly not one. What'd you think?
You know, I'm over ladder matches. I mean, this is the second Sammy ladder match this year. The TNT title means less than it ever has before, and I said that a few weeks ago, and it means less now. Sammy's an idiot. Being able to do those things and applying them to wrestling is one thing. Being able to do those things and just doing them whether they make sense or not, under the guise of, I'm crazy, I don't know about that. To me, I like the early portion of the show with the wrestling heavy stuff. The stuff that feels like classic wrestling, Punk, the FTR match. I even like the Blackpool Combat Club this week. I still want to call them the Fight Club. But this is AEW. You're going to get this kind of train wreck to end the show.
I still want to know from somebody on the inside. We need to plumb our moles and our sources. Did they intend to switch Sammy Guevara heel? Or did he just start, unbeknownst to what he was doing, him and his little girl, did they just start acting so insufferable and the people start booing them that Tony decided to go with it? I want to know which came first.
I think it's that.
The idiot or the egg?
I think it was the egg. Well, is that the egg?
I think that's the idiot.
Oh, so it was the idiot, I think.
Well, see, now you know which came first, the idiot or the egg. At least we know Sammy's getting laid.
At least we know that.
At least we know that. All right.
You know what? If he is hurt and out for any period of time, I feel bad, although he did that to himself. It's like not even like, oh, it was a bump that went wrong. I don't know what he was thinking or what he was doing. But beyond that, him and Ty Conti as heels, as young heels, who are always like on spring break or whatever their gimmick is.
Yeah.
There is something good there. Get them away from the Lambert thing because it's confusing to people. And quite frankly, I still don't think people care about Scorpio Sky or Lambert. Ethan Page has potential, but they haven't shown that they're going to do anything with that. But do something different with Sammy and Ty. Get them booked with someone different. Do something new.
And give them the chance to give them a couple of underneath baby faces so that they can not only do all their shit and get the heat that they're getting because they're obnoxious asshole spring breakers, but let him beat some people convincingly while they do it. and some people that are baby faces that the fans are supposed to like, instead of, oh, good, Sammy's bitch girlfriend kicked that no good piece of shit Dan Lambert in the balls. There's no hero here.
And then Paige Van Zandt, who we were last cheering when Jericho was calling her a slut, we were booing her.
Yeah.
Now she's out there, and is she the babyface? Apparently.
Anyway, are we done here? I think we're done. They were done. I was done at that point.
I think we are done. I'm debating whether or not I can name the show The Idiot or The Egg, or if it's too late in the show to use that as the name of the show.
Well, they'll just have to sit around and wait to see where it comes up.
Which came first, the idiot or the egg? And halfway through this show, they're going to say, am I the idiot? I've been sitting here waiting for the answer.
Exactly.
Egg. All right.
Egg. All right, Mr. Vincent Price, Egghead. We're done with this one, but we're going to have another one shortly coming up thereafter, because we always do. This time it's going to be your show on the Drive-Thru in just a few days, correct?
That is correct. The very, very, very popular Drive-Thru, otherwise known as Jim Cornette's Drive-Thru, will be back at you with lots and lots and lots and lots of questions.
It's very popular because people can just go right through without stopping. They like it that way. I wish I could go through some of these TV programs without stopping.